class. Today we have Samuel from Fleek, who will be discussing using Fleeks Space Daemon technology to store and retrieve data from IPFS and Filecoin. Samuel, do you want to take it away?
Yes, I'm going to share my screen now. All right. So during the presentation, we're going to answer the question, what is space, the space daemon? So if you never heard about this new technology that we are developing at Fleek, this is the presentation that you want to attend. I'm going to go from the ground up, like what it is, just understand what it does, if it's good, if you have a project that you want to do, and wonder if it's a good fit for you. It's a good, we're going to enter that. And then later on, I'm going to go a bit deeper also, like for developers, like how to get started with the daemon, develop stuff with it. So on the agenda, so part one, it's this presentation. We're going to answer this question. And part two is when we're going to dive into how it works and setting up the dev environment. And we're also going to show all our repo on GitHub so that you know where to find anything. So first of all, what is Fleek? So Fleek is the company that makes the Fleek the space daemon, and I work at Fleek. So the space daemon is not our first product; it's in fact our third product. The first one that we ever worked with is the Fleek hosting product. It's the first we did, and what it is basically, it's you can think about it like Netlify, but on IPFS. So it allows people to deploy their apps on IPFS. And our websites, like our homepage, our app, our blogs, are all hosted on IPFS using Fleek hosting. So it's a very good product that you can use to deploy like commercial applications. And the second product is Fleek Storage, which is to push your web assets on IPFS and use it on your application. For example, we have a blog.fleek.co, and all our images are pushed on Fleek Storage. And we use the CDN that comes with Fleek Storage so that it can be retrieved very fast. And then the third one, this is the subject of this presentation, the Space Daemon, our privacy-focused product. So first of all, before we talk about what the Space Daemon does, we need to establish what are the problems that it aims to solve. So first of all, we talk about big tech companies selling user data. I think we all know about this, that companies like Google, they track user data information and they sell it to other companies. And we know this happens, like if you search on Google, you make a Google search, you're gonna see afterwards ads that are tailored to your individual characteristic. It's a bit creepy, but it shows that your user data is not safe in the hands of a big company. So there's a problem with user data on that sense. In the second, we talk about government censorship. So we know that recently, a month ago, I'd say, TikTok was banned in the USA. Again, we see that the government has a lot of control on the data. And the third one, we talk about hackers accessing centralized data sources. We know that recently with Twitter, there was a hack that happened. And people speculate that direct messages of users, of high-profile users, could have been read. And we're talking about big people like Obama, Biden, so very important people. And a lot of people, even if you remember when the hack happened, there were Bitcoin scams being posted on Twitter. So there's a problem here with hackers that have access to user data. And on the meme here, we kind of illustrate that. It says your account is secured by state-of-the-art backend a team of world-class security experts, cutting-edge security practices, and is gone. So it doesn't matter how much money Twitter has, the data is always can be compromised. So what is the solution? It's space. So the value proposition of space is to bring privacy through encryption and data ownership. So the idea is that you have files, and the custodian of this file is not Twitter or Google, it's yourself. You own the cryptographic keys that allows you to access this data. And also, we run on IPFS and Filecoin. So your files are pushed on IPFS Filecoin, which means it's censorship resistance, like I talked previously about TikTok. The government just decided to censor them, therefore they were gone. But if it is on IPFS and Filecoin, which is peer-to-peer, then now you can't just snap your fingers and remove whatever you want. So it has the two things: privacy and censorship resistance. So how does it work precisely? So when you push a file on IPFS, you put your hash, and then you can access your file. In this case, when this happens, it's because it's not encrypted. But what Space does is that it's going to encrypt your files. And of course, since it is encrypted, you want to unencrypt them. The cryptographic keys are actually going to be on your local machine, which allows the user to unencrypt the files that you need to unencrypt. And also, like our encryption keys, it's not just encryption, there's also a system of identity management and of sharing. So you can collaborate with other people, you can share a file with only one person in particular to a particular public key. So that's how the Space Daemon bring privacy to people. So even though your files are on IPFS, no one will be able to read them because they are encrypted. And also, for the next part, I want to make a distinction between two things: the Space Daemon and the Space app. So the Space app, it's a product that we've announced like a month ago, I'd say, if I remember correctly. So what are these two things? Because they both share the name Space, and we want to not confuse them. The Space app is what you see in the image here. It's a product that is not yet released, but it's an Electron app that you run on your computer. And you can think about it as Dropbox, but it's privacy focused. So, and this app is going to, under the hood, use the Space Daemon to encrypt everything and push on IPFS. So the Space app, you can think about it. It's a good example of what you can do using the Space Daemon. And not only that, but a lot of our needs of development, when we need new features for this app, we actually implement it on the Space Daemon, which means the Space Daemon itself, if you want to develop apps on it, you're going to have a lot of features that are getting rolled quite periodically that we need. Like, for instance, we recently added a notification, for example. So if someone shares a file with you, there's you can subscribe to notification. It's going to show a notification with the individual that is trying to share a file, and you can accept or reject the invitation. So it's just a feature like that that we needed for the app, and we put it in the Space Daemon. So to summarize, the Space Daemon is what runs under the hood of the Space app. And the Space app is the product that we are building at Fleek using the Space Daemon. And by the way, both are going to be open source. Finally, I want to talk about Filecoin integration. So the idea of what we want to do with Filecoin in the Space Daemon is that we want to use Filecoin to back up encrypted files. For example, you can have like a bucket with a bunch of files in it. Everything is encrypted, and the idea is you could use Filecoin to take that and make a backup. And since it is encrypted, it's all safe, because as you know, things that are a Filecoin are not necessarily encrypted. If you want it to be private, you need to take care of encryption yourself. And so the space daemon is an ideal solution for that. In our case, with the space daemon, the Filecoin node is done through PowerGate. So PowerGate is a product that is developed by Textile, a company that from whom we use a lot of their products. And the PowerGate is it bundles an IPFS node and a Lotus node, which runs Filecoin, and it provides an API that allows developers to easily interact with it. And also, on the last part, so this is not a finalized feature. So I might touch a little bit about it today. I'm going to show you how to interact with it, but it's not yet production ready because we are missing some methods on the space daemon that allow you to fully exploit this feature. So just keep that in mind, that it's not fully finalized and we're still working on it. But again, we need it for the space app. So it's going to be, it's also a priority for us. And here we talk also this image. It's to show like a bit how we are thinking about the daemon. So on the bottom here, on the middle, we see the space daemon. And on the bottom, we see just a bunch of protocols that come with the daemon. For example, Filecoin, which we're going to integrate. There's Textile. From Textile, we use the buckets, which is one of their products, threads, and also the PowerGate, which is pending. There's IPFS, because we push on IPFS, and then other stuff like Ceramic, Handshake, and we also plan eventually to add an Ethereum-like node. Of course, the space daemon is open source. So here it says new protocol, because if you want a new protocol on the space daemon, you can actually add it since it's open source. So we hope that with the space daemon, all those people are gonna pull their efforts together so that we can add more features even to the daemon. And on top over here, we see that there's apps. So of course, the space daemon runs under the hood of apps. And the first app that is going to be released is the storage app that we are currently working on, and I've talked previously. But if you want to make an app, you could make the next app 2, app 3. So what is cool is that other feature that we build for the storage app, you can actually use it for your app. So it's interesting, I think, for developers to think about if you want to make a privacy-focused app, you can indeed do it with the space daemon. And so for some idea about privacy apps, so a lot of the Web 2 technologies like Google, Dropbox, GitHub, a lot of it is centralized. And so it's just very good products, but when you use it, you know that you have privacy issues and you have to trust the company, and your data can leak. So we think that there's an opportunity right now that you can use products like the space daemon to, on top of it, build a decentralized version of current products. For example, with our storage product, we decided to do, what if we had Dropbox, but it was private? So that was our inspiration. But if you want to make an app, some great ideas are like a decentralized GitHub, decentralized YouTube, all the kind of things you can realize using the space daemon. So just quickly, I'm going to talk about some resources. So we got our documentation. I'm going to show you later. but we detail every method that are in the space daemon. So like the documentation is quite complete, so it should make development a bit easier. We got our GitHub repo, which I'm going to show you also afterwards. We got a workshop, which in this presentation we're going to use. I'm going to show you the workshop. It teaches you like the basics of the daemon, so it's pretty useful. And also we got a YouTube channel. If you search IPFS Fleek on YouTube, it should pop up. And we got a lot of content so that are on Fleek, the space daemon, but also we link to other presentations that we've done. So anything Fleek related, space related, you can find it on the YouTube channel. And now we're gonna
booster ignition and liftoff of Shuttle Endeavour with NASA's final space station crew compartment.
I'm gonna stop the screen share. I'm gonna just open another window. Okay, and now I'm gonna share it back. All right, so now we are on the GitHub, the Fleek GitHub repo. So if you want to get to the Fleek GitHub repo, it's here's the address. It's github.com/FleekHQ. And I want to give you a quick tour of the repos as we download what we need and set up our dev environment. So there's a lot of Fleek stuff here, but on the pin repository, we see space-related repos. The first one is the space daemon itself. So that is the actual daemon that we're going to talk about right now. So I'm going to open this repo. And here on the instructions, we got running from source. So there are two ways to run the daemon. The first one is you clone this repo and you make yourself the binaries and you run it that way. If you do that, however, there's a lot of environmental variables that you must set up. So just keep that in mind. It might be a little bit laborious, but you can do it. The second way to run the daemon is you can go to the releases here. So I'm going to click that. And here the official releases that we recommend people use to run the daemon. So here, there's a v0.0.21-dev. Because it's a dev, maybe we won't get this one, but this one seems to be the latest release. So if you want to download the daemon, you go to the release on assets, and you simply download the version that correspond to your machine. For example, there's Windows 32-bit and 64-bit, Linux 32-bit and 64-bit, which is what I'm using, and there's Space Darwin 64-bit. Important to note about the Space Darwin, we have a question about that. Space Darwin is for Mac. So if you're running a Mac, what you want to use is Space Darwin. In my case here, I got my terminal. I already downloaded the space daemon, so it's gonna save us a little bit of time. So if I do ls, I got here, that's the workshop. I'm gonna show it afterwards. There's the daemon, the source code. We might not use it, but here's the executable. So since I am on Linux and I want to run it, what I did is sudo chmod +x, and then this space Linux. And that's going to allow me to run it as an executable. But I already did that. So if I want to run it, I simply do space Linux like this. And now the daemon is going to start. We see a bunch of logs, but eventually we should see a line that says daemon ready. Now wait a little bit. Welcome to bucket, waiting. Okay, here it is. So when you see this line, daemon ready, it means that now you can start communicating with the daemon using code. So you might wonder, how do I talk with the daemon? So now I got a running instance of the daemon. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna move it to the auto screen. How do I talk with the daemon? So the daemon it runs we can talk to it through gRPC. And to actually talk daemon, we're gonna need to use a client. So I'm gonna go back to the GitHub repo, and here the space client. So if you have a JavaScript application of any kind, a web app or an Electron app, you can download the space client and through gRPC methods talk to the daemon and start uploading files, listing files, and etc. So if you want to install it, the instructions are here. Where is it? I don't see it, but you can run this npm install fsq/space client, and then it's gonna install the JSON package, and after that you can do this. You instantiate the client, the port in localhost where the client is running. By default, it's port 9998, and then you can start talking with the client. So there's another repo I want to show you. It's going to be our example for today, the Space Client Workshop. So if you can clone this repo and use it as an example. And we're going to use that to learn a bit about the how it works under the hood and how to code with it. So here I got my client. I already cloned this repo on my space folder. I got here Space Client Workshop. That is the Space Client repo that I just showed you. So I'm gonna go inside it and I'm gonna open an editor. I'm gonna move this. All right, so that's the content of my repo. Again, I got the daemon running in the background. Now I can start the workshop. So I'm gonna run yarn and yarn start just to get it started. And on the new tab on localhost 2000 is gonna open the React application that is gonna show us how to use the daemon. Here it is. On my keyboard, I'm gonna type F12 just to show the developer tools, because with our space client workshop, is going to show up the result in the console. So we want to see that, of course. And as you can see, there are steps. We're going to go from 0 up to the end. The last one is our experimental Filecoin implementation. But to get started, we're at 0, it has generate key pair. So all the space daemon works. It's asymmetric cryptography. So you have your own private key that you tell no one, and you have your public key that you can use to identify yourself. So I think that most people know how this works, this type of cryptography. But before we can use the daemon, we need to generate our key pair. So I'm going to click that. Now that it's generated our key pair, our space daemon instance is going to log us, I guess, as this key pair that we just created. And all these functions that we're going to call are going to be done with the context that we are from this key pair. And if I look at the code, it's right here, generate key pair. It's right here. So we're importing the client. So this client is just what we have declared here. So we importing the space client, generating a new instance of the client on port 9998, and we're exporting that. And that allows access to all the functions, including this one over here. generate key pair with force. And when we call that, it through gRPC is going to talk to the daemon and generate the key pair. Like if, for example, I go here, as you can see here, you can read in the logs like that it created the key pair. I can really find it. It's a bit hard to read a lot of stuff, but anyway, if I was looking at the daemon, I would see the messages that says like, okay, it is a key pair that is now generated. I go back to the workshop. So now that we have a key pair, we can start putting stuff in it. So how it works is that you have buckets. So buckets is they're gonna take containers that are going to contain all your files inside them. You can think about it like AWS S3. You also have buckets, and into the buckets you can put your files. So it's analogous to that. So I'm gonna create a bucket. I'm gonna call it my bucket. So I'm gonna create the bucket. Here it says creating bucket. I don't know if I can make it bigger, the text. Maybe not. So here, now the bucket is created, it gives us a message. So it tells us the key. Of course, it's a IPFS hash, as you can probably recognize it. There's a name. It's called my bucket. Now inside, so what we did right now, I have my key pair, and associated with my key pair, I have a bucket called my bucket. Now this bucket, I can do many things like putting folder files or put folders, because in effect, the buckets, they can be organized in a folder architecture, the same way you're used to in your computer. So for example, I'm going to try to create a new folder inside the bucket. I'm going to create my bucket, and I'm going to put the path of my folder. So I can call it, for example, my folder. So now it says folder created. So now everything is organized in my bucket in the root. In the root folder, there should be a folder called my folder. Luckily, we have a method that allows us to look into the content of our bucket. It's called the list directory. So I'm going to put the name my bucket and the root. So when I'm going to do list directory, what I'm expecting to see is to see a folder that is going to be called my folder. So let's just try it. Submit, fetching the directory, and it returns an array that has only one element because there's only one thing. And indeed, the name is my folder, and here is directory true. So we've in effect created a folder called my folder. Now I want to show you in the code how we did that really quickly. So first of all, when I started this whole thing, I first created a bucket. So here's the create bucket button, and the submit. We can see it's pretty easy. It's the response, and you do await client.createBucket, and you put a name inside. And then there's a bucket object that can be gotten to by calling getBucket. So here you might be wondering, so I'm calling res.getBucket. How did I know that I could call that? So luckily we have our documentation, which I'm going to show you here. That's our documentation, docs.fleek.co. I just want to show you how we have detailed every method of the space daemon to make it easy for you to interact with it. So this documentation is for everything Fleek related, including hosting, storage, and the space daemon. In our case, we are interested in the space daemon. So we're gonna go here and click on getting started. And as you can see, everything is here. There are instructions like download the daemon, running the daemon, downloading the client, and etc. But more importantly, over here, there's the crud operation, and we see here, oops, create a bucket. That's the thing that we just did. We use the create bucket method. So I click on that, and in the documentation, we are showing you everything. So client.createBucket returns a response that you can then interact with it by calling various functions like get key, get name, get path, and etc. So all the related information that you need to understand how to interpret the response, it's all in the documentation. So keep in mind, like with the daemon, we got very good documentation that you can make a use of. I'm gonna go back to my workshop here. So we created the bucket. We use get bucket because the documentation told us that you could get the bucket like that. And here we then after that use create folder, and it's pretty easy. It's the same thing that we just did, but it's another method. So it's .create folder, and we give it the necessary parameters, which again are detailed in the documentation. So the bucket name and the path, which is what I inputted in the text box. And just like that, it was created. And here, list directory, that is when I click on this button over here, it's another method. So await client this directory, the bucket, the path, and then there's a response object from which we call get entries list. Again, the documentation is going to tell you like how to interpret the response. So you don't have to memorize any of that. I'm going to go back to the workshop. So now that we have a folder, we of course want to put stuff inside that folder. We want to put files because that's the whole reason why we created the daemon. So we're going to do that right now. Here, number 4. So the bucket. So I have to specify which bucket I'm going to use to upload my file. So I'm going to type my bucket, the name of my bucket. Here, there is the file path. So that path is the path in your local machine where you want to get your files from. In my case, I already created a file in my machine that I want to upload. So I'm gonna write the path. I memorized it. Is this, and the name of my file is my file. And then bucket path. So it's now I got my file. Where do I want to put it in my bucket? So maybe we can put it in the folder that we just created. That it might make sense. So it's gonna be in / my folder upload file. It says submit, uploading file. So now we're gonna wait a little bit. And then it shows me a response. Indeed, it uploaded my file, but I can prove that it uploaded my file by looking at list directory. So list directory allows me to look into the file, into the folders of my bucket. So I'm gonna go here and look at my folder. What is inside that folder? So now I do list directory, and indeed, I see there is a file called my file. So as we can see here, in the upload was successful. My file is now inside the bucket. Also, you might wonder, what is this? there's also a file called .keep. So that is just a file that we create by default on the folder. So you don't have to worry about that. But now that we created a file, of course, we want to open the file. Like we want to interact with the file, because right now it's on the machine, on IPFS, it's encrypted. We want to unencrypt it and interact with the file. So how we're going to do that is pretty simple. Here, the bucket, I'm going to put the name of the bucket, my bucket, the path, / my folder, and the name of my file is called my file. Now I'm going to click on open file. That will allow me to see this file. It's right here. So now you might wonder like, what is this? This is the daemon. It's the daemon created a copy of the file on my PC that is unencrypted. So it went into my encrypted file, unencrypted the files, and made a copy of it. So I can prove to you that indeed this is my file by here opening the file. So I can do, for example, cat, which is going to help me show me the content of my file. I'm going to copy the path that the daemon gave me and press enter. It says hello. So indeed, before this presentation, I created a file called hello, and the content that said hello exclamation point. So as you can see, it successfully opened my file that was on the daemon. So now from step 1 through 5, as we've seen, all these are simple methods that are detailed in the documentation, and I showed you in the code. Open file and upload file is the same thing as the other method. So I won't show you the code. It's pretty straightforward. But now that we can put file inside the bucket, I can show you some extra features that come with the daemon. So you might want to, for example, share your file with someone else. So I'm going to show you like a little bit the sharing feature. So here I got 6 share bucket. So I'm going to try to share my bucket with someone else. And I'm going to show you how it works. So here, I need to put a name of a bucket. So I'm going to put my bucket, which is the bucket I've just created. And I'm going to click on a share bucket. Now it says sharing bucket. And here it shows me a bunch of information. This information is going to be important for the person that will join your bucket. So in this case, it's going to be hard to make a demo because I would need someone else with a space daemon running to join my bucket. But I'm still going to show you how it works. But the idea here is that I share the bucket, and I'm going to give the bucket name, the key, and the addresses field to someone else who's going to run the bucket. And this person is going to call the join bucket. And once he does that, he will be able to see the content of the bucket. So we effectively share the bucket. Sorry for the phone that is ringing. So we got here the bucket name, bucket. The key is right here. Copy that inside this field. And then the addresses, we need to copy that. Basically, it's the list of addresses that the client, the daemon will have to look to get to be able to join the bucket. So here I'm gonna copy that and go here, and then it can be cleaned up a little bit, like removing the removing that. Removing that, a comma, and then that. And just like that, you can share. You can now join the bucket. So if I do join bucket, it's going to show an error. DB already exists, of course, because I cannot join my own bucket. But if it was someone else that did join bucket, now this bucket can have access to all these functions, these previous functions. So you could, for example, do a list directory and look at the directory. You could do open file and open the file. Now, we might be wondering, like, okay, but can I do like other stuff with it? Yes. I'm going to show you the documentation. Where is it? The docs is here. There's a bunch of features here that are related to sharing. So on our Space application, for example, the sharing is not just like you share. You can share and have a permission. So you can share with a public key, a specific person, and give that specific person some rights, like read only or read and write. So there is a permission control here. But there's a bunch of function here sharing related to sharing that I think are not yet merged on the master branch or updated, I mean, on the documentation. But some of them are share files via public key. If you do that, it's gonna be you're gonna share your file with a specific person via his public key. You can list all the files that people have shared with you. So there's a bunch of utility things here. You can generate a public link. So if you do that, it's going to be a URL, and you can share that with anyone. So there's a lot of options, like to which degree you want to share your file. Like if it's sensitive, you will maybe share it with only one person. You might want to control the you might want to give it read only. Maybe in some cases you want to collaborate with someone, read and write options. So all that stuff is with the daemon. And now there's the final one. There's the PowerGate implementation. So the thing with PowerGate implementation, I'm not going to demo the whole thing, but I still want to give you the pointers so that you can get started with it. Just test it out, because like I said, it's our Filecoin implementation a lot. We're talking with protocol labs. So it's like it's in construction. So it's not like fully production ready. So what we got right now, just to like give you a preview here on the Space Daemon repo, if you go to Filecoin, oops, yes, there's a branch called Filecoin, and that branch is where we are testing things and messing around it. And so pretty much what it is that you can run an instance of the PowerGate alongside the Space Daemon. So if you use it, you'll see that, and try to make an app for it, you'll see there's some limitation. For example, like there may be some methods missing on the daemon that allow you to just get your old bucket encrypted so that you can then upload it on Filecoin. So that's what I mean by the fact that it's not fully production ready. We still need to add some more stuff. But if you go here on the Filecoin branch, you can then run an instance of Filecoin. And once you do that, on the here it is on the number 8 here of the Space client, you can then do this and actually upload a file. So if you want instructions on how to upload the file using this branch on the documentation, I'm gonna give you the pointers. Space Daemon, getting started. At the bottom here, there's PowerGate. It's giving you the instruction on how to start it. So you're gonna need to run it from source. And what I said previously about running from source is that you're going to need a bunch of environmental variables. So if you want to try this experimental feature, make sure that all the environmental variables are just set up so that your space daemon runs properly. So in here in the code, just show you. This is an example that's very similar to what's on in the PowerGate documentation. So it's an instance of the PowerGate, and you can connect to it and upload a file. So it's kind of cool. So I just wanted to show you that before we ended our presentation. So for the presentation, that's it. So I hope it was useful to you. So if there are some questions, I'm going to be happy to answer them. If not, it's we can stop. Let me see the chat. I don't see any questions in the chat. Zach says, I don't see any questions on YouTube. That's good. So if there's no questions, we can indeed start the presentation. So thank you everyone for attending. And I hope that it was useful to you. It shows you how to use the daemon, and also that you're excited by the prospect of the Filecoin integration that we're working right now. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a nice day.